children from African and Caribbean communities are twice likely to be obese as their white peers, according to new figures from Public Health England. The research reveals that black boys and girls aged 4 and 5 are the ethnic group most likely to be overweight, with a similar trend for 10 and 11-year-old black girls. It comes in the week that the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, NICE for short, called to lower the recommended weight considered healthy for people of African and Caribbean descent to prevent the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. I'm now joined by the Director of Public Health at NICE, Professor Mike Kelly. Hello, Professor. How are you?
I'm very well. Good evening, Kevin.
Excellent. That's very scary. Obese at 4 years old. Are parents failing their children or what?
Okay, well, what we're facing here is a worldwide problem of obesity. It affects all countries around the globe, and it's a particular problem in the United Kingdom. And in certain community groups, the problem seems to be more severe and acute than others. And therefore, there's a whole range of things we need to be thinking about here, and NICE has produced recommendations this week for local authorities around the country to put into place a series of strategies to try and help with the problem. Now, it's a particularly important problem in certain community groups, the black community, the Asian community, because of for the following reasons. When we think about someone's weight, the way we look at whether it's healthy or not is to consider a ratio between how tall people are and how fat they are. And that's called the body mass index, or the BMI. Now, conventionally, up to now, the thinking has been if your BMI was over 25, then you were at risk of the development of certain diseases. And that is still true. Generally, across the whole population, your chances of developing type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and stroke goes up and up and up for each number above 25 that you go. And once you get above 30 and 35, the risk is very considerable indeed.
Now, what's the reasons for this in the African Caribbean communities?
Well, the critical thing in the African Caribbean community is that those risks kick in earlier when people are younger, and so what we're saying is that the threshold in the black community should be 23, not 25. That's the point where people should be taking action to bring about those changes in their certain things in their lifestyle, what they're eating, try and get that weight down in order to reverse the chances of getting these diseases. Because there is an optimistic
what are we
thing
eating?
here.
I mean, what's the food content? What's the content in the food that we should be scared of here?
Sugar and fat, principally. And salt doesn't do you a lot of good either. So they're the sorts of things we should be seeking to eliminate from our diet. And we should be going...
Fat. Can you break down...
Well, cakes, sugary drinks, cakes, fried foods, certain types of pastries and those sorts of things with the high contents of fats in them. And those we should be seeking to limit. Not take it out of the diet altogether, because you actually need some fat to be healthy. But we need as a nation, all of us need to consume less calories from these sources which are rich in calories and make it so easy to put on weight.
Right. Okay. What difference will lowering the weight do? I mean, considering the age you mentioned just before, it's one of the ages where you try to excel and experiment with foods and stuff like that.
Sure.
It's really hard to discipline yourself. I think a lot of people trying to get discipline when they're older.
Yeah, sure. It is difficult. Now, I don't think anyone underestimates the difficulties and the problems here. Anyone who's tried to go on a diet, anyone who's tried to discipline themselves, as you say, will have run into these kinds of difficulties and problems. But what we need to do is be thinking about not cutting out things that give us pleasure altogether, but rather trying to build a diet that's built on starchy foods like rice, bread and potatoes, vegetables and fruits, as well as the sorts of foods that help to build the cells in the human body, fish, meat, eggs, and things of that kind. And if we go back to a kind of more traditional sort of diet, it doesn't put on weight quite so rapidly as certain modern processed food stuff.
Give me some examples.
Takeaways and things of that kind.
Give me some examples of the traditional food diet you mentioned.
Well, it's really just what we find in most traditional diets around the world, where bread, rice, potatoes are the staple source of energy rather than sugary foods or fatty foods. And that's the critical difference, really.
Okay. And what advice would you give to people who have actually gone past that threshold? Did you mention?
Well, first of all,
trying to lose weight.
They should talk to their GP if they're worried. If they've got any of the sorts of things that make them feel very breathless or very thirsty, they should be going along and talking to their GP. But otherwise, what they should be doing is thinking about bringing about those changes in their lifestyle. Walking a bit more. Walking is nature's way of making us well. It makes you feel good, but it also helps to get those body parts moving that help to suppress actually some of the appetites and some of the demands that are put on us.
Okay, exercise more.
Yep.
And watch your diet.
For sure. Very simple, but in the end, very, very effective, because it is possible in the early stages of the development of these problems to stop the process. There's nothing inevitable about becoming diabetic if we take action soon enough.
Professor Mike Kelly, it's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. Thank you.